Spirit is really testing my patience right now because I just got a phone call in the middle of this video. So now what? It's going to be a part three. I don't know how to edit anything right now. Good Christ. Anyways, I don't remember what I was saying. I think it was something along the lines of when you're on this. Okay. Yeah. When I was younger, because I was so overwhelmed by how lonely I was and how many emotions I was feeling, and not understanding that clearly I wasn't only feeling my own emotions, I was feeling and taking on the pain of the world and the people around me. That's what it means to be an empath, but it doesn't have to, right? That's like your disempowered state when, you know, you're stepping into yourself and you're feeling all these things and blah blah blah, but then like you don't know what it is. And as lonely as your spiritual awakening and path can be, it doesn't have to be, but I do encourage you to embrace the solitude because we are so bombarded with outside noise all the time, right? Literally from childhood up until adulthood. Like, you're going to school, you're having experiences, you're meeting people, you're growing, you're changing, you're developing. And even in those times, if you don't have somebody as an anchor, or you're not anchored in yourself and you don't have somebody that you can rely on who can be there for you, those are the times that we get mixed up. Those are the times that we become insecure. Those are the times that we start doubting ourselves and we don't believe in ourselves. We start comparing ourselves. And then when you grow into your like teenage and early adult years, I'm convinced that being 30 is when you actually hit adulthood, okay? Being in your teens and then 20s is a joke. Like, you're still a child, okay? Your brain's still developing. You have no idea what's going on. I promise. So, I just feel like that needs to be said because you're supposed to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're 18. Bitch, what? Like, you don't even know what's going on. You don't know anything about your health. You don't know anything about wellness. You don't know anything about your own development and what the hell's going on and what it means to be a person. But then they expect you to just like have it all figured out. Bitch, this is not 1825, okay? Like, things are different. Had to emphasis, you know, that time because even in 1925, I feel like people probably still definitely didn't have it together. But regardless, we're in a different time, we're in a different age. Oh, God, I just feel like I'm suffocating. My husband says that I sigh a lot, but in my defense, that's my body's way of expelling energy. And me also just finding a way to regulate and come back to myself. When you're on this path, it can get lonely. So embrace the solitude, not in a way that you're like negatively shutting people out, right? Like, I still have days where I do that, but I let people know, like, hey, I'm alive. I'm just kind of hermiting right now, okay? Just dealing with a lot of emotions or things that are coming up for me. Excuse me, things that I'm working through. But when you first begin on this path, it really does get lonely at times because you're exploring something new. You're exploring new beliefs. You're exploring, new mentalities, new perspectives, new ways of like seeing and understanding and receiving and believing all of these different things. And it can be exciting. And it is because you learn so much and you're like, oh, I want to share this with everyone. But understand that generally a lot of people around you are not going to want to hear it. Definitely not in the beginning, right? Once you kind of get more into it and you start working on yourself and like people start seeing the changes, sometimes they'll be intrigued and they're like, what have you been doing? Like, can you teach me about this? Or, they'll ask you questions. But generally, do your best to not shove your spirituality and beliefs and journey down people's throats because it's not for them at that time. I think everything opens up in divine time when it's meant to be, for the right people, for the right places at the right time. My husband and I were talking the other day, and he was like, when we talk sometimes, he's like, maybe there's a message that's coming through for me. And if even if I'm saying it to you, like, it's not for you, right? It's for me to understand. And vice versa. Maybe something's coming through for you that's really clear and you're explaining it to me, but maybe it's not for me to understand. It's just for you. And so I would say generally that's how it tends to be when you're, really starting your spiritual journey and really diving deep into it because it can be all consuming. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, definitely find harmony in your life. But I think that's where community does come into play. So, meeting new people who have similar interest or, putting yourself in a space where it's like a workshop or a store or a meetup or just something, if you're asking spirit for aligned connections, generally the universe will orchestrate ways for that to happen. But you also have to be open enough to put yourself out there to want to experience that. But that also comes along with discernment because I've had times where I'm like, oh, I need to make more friends or I need to be more open. And I'll force myself to like go to a hangout or go to a lunch. And then I'm just like, I'm literally never going to talk to this person ever again. Like, what was that? And that was a learning experience too. But that's, again, that comes back down to following your intuition, listening to your gut, listening to your inner knowing, picking up on those, energetic cues of what feels good to you, what feels resistant to you, like, and just kind of going from there. Um, yeah, and I mean, sometimes you'll find that, as you start to grow and explore and, go down this path, like, sometimes people will be curious and want to know more. And if they're not, that's okay too. You don't have anything to prove. I think that's another big lesson when it comes to this is when you're exploring this, it's like opening up a whole new world and you get really excited and you just see things in a whole different way. And again, it's not always going to be for someone else. But also, this is also a path of coming home to yourself and understanding that you don't have anything to prove. You don't have anything to prove, and nor, should you try to force yourself to prove it to anybody. Because again, it's not for them. This is going to be a space for you to explore and get to know yourself, get to know your ancestors, your beliefs, your perspectives, your thoughts, feelings, emotions, mindsets. Like, I don't know, I feel like spirituality is very personal and the journey that you're on is very personal and it's very specific and catered to you. And that can be hard too sometimes. Like I said, it can get lonely out here, but it doesn't mean that you're alone. That's why you look up other places on YouTube or you look on social media or you meet people, in public spaces that might resonate with you. You read a little bit more, you listen a little bit more, and really finding that comfort and peace in being with yourself and being with spirit and understanding that you're never really alone. And it turns into a place of not really feeling lonely. I would say generally most of the time. Like, if you end up needing solitude a lot, I mean, that's a journey in itself, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's better to be alone than to be in bad company. And boy, have I been in bad company a lot of times in my life because I didn't want to be alone. So think about that. hmm. All right, I'm starting to zone out. It's been almost 11 minutes into this third video since the other one got cut off. I don't really know. I'm going to piece this all together, but maybe I'll just stick it in one little playlist so everything's back to back. I don't know. At some point, I will maybe hopefully get to working on editing things, but I also just, I don't know, I like to just show up and free flow because I feel like that's the best way that I can express myself. Um, and generally, it is just free flowing because I'll have an idea sometimes of what I want to talk about, and then I just ramble on for 3 or 4 videos for whatever reason because I don't know, I feel like spirit has a lot to say, and so do I. And I'm just trying to get more comfortable about putting myself out there because it is not easy. And the people who are doing it, thank you because that inspires me. Um, yeah. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and comment on the video, like, share, subscribe. I just want to be able to reach people. I want these messages, these stories to reach whoever they're meant to reach, just so, people can have a resource somewhere to listen and go to when they do feel alone on their spiritual path or just on their path in general, right? It doesn't have to be a spiritual one, but I don't know. I found that I could have used a lot of this type of support growing up and or going through my own spiritual journey. I feel like there's a lot of support I still could use on my journey. A lot of things that I don't really understand still that I'm, you know, working through. But I feel like it definitely helps to have community. And I always have the intention of being open and sharing with others so that they don't feel lonely, so they don't feel alone, so they understand that, okay, it's not just me, someone else has had this experience or something similar. No, because we're not always going to have the same exact experience, but we will, generally have some type of similar experience. My husband always says that at some point in time, we're all going to experience the same thing. And I feel like to some extent that is true. It's not always going to be in the same exact way, but like the feeling, the emotion, the experience, the thoughts, what we learn from it, kind of what comes up for us, I think can be very similar. I mean, we're human beings, we're all connected. So I feel like it's good to have, you know, at least someone or somewhere you can go where you don't feel completely alone or misunderstood. And if you think I'm batshit crazy, that's fine too. I'm embracing it because sometimes I feel insane. But I'm I'm still free to roam the streets. I guess that's a good thing. We'll just leave that where it is. All right. I love you guys. Take care, and I hope this helps. Until the next one.